Tonight on Keeping It Real with Alex Cardinale, let's take a trip back to late August of 2005. Hurricane Katrina struck many parts of the United States of America. New Orleans was the hardest hit area as many homes, businesses, and even parks such as Six Flags New Orleans were completely submerged with water and damage. Hurricane Katrina caused 1,800 people to lose their lives and it caused over $1.25 billion in damage. One damaged property for example is Six Flags New Orleans, which was forced to close due to damage and it was deserted. Find out all about Hurricane Katrina and the damage and impact it caused to the United States. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. From Lake Worth, Florida, here is your host Alex Cardinale.
Hello everyone, welcome to Keeping It Real with Alex Cardinale, where I, Alex Cardinale, break down some of America's worst tragedies. Before we begin today's show, I would like to send my thoughts and prayers to everyone being affected by Hurricane Ian. So if you're in the part of Florida where Hurricane Ian hit, my thoughts and my prayers are with you, and hopefully you have power, and hopefully you'll be okay. So my thoughts and prayers are with everyone that's in the path of Hurricane Ian. Now, speaking of hurricanes, today we're going to talk about a hurricane that hit in 2005. Now, in 2005, I was only 12 years old, and I remember this hurricane very vividly. And it's because it's one of the worst hurricanes to hit the United States of America. One of the worst hurricanes in my lifetime. It completely destroyed New Orleans, and it took New Orleans several decades to recover from this hurricane. So today on Keeping It Real with Alex Cardinale, we are going to talk about Hurricane Katrina. So, in 2005, a destructive Category 5 hurricane called Hurricane Katrina hit the United States of America. It did the most damage in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it caused over 1,800 deaths. 1,800 people lost their lives, and it caused $1.25 billion in damage in late August 2005. For example, the damage in New Orleans caused many homes to be destroyed, many businesses to be destroyed. And I'm going to give you a good example to show how big it destroyed New Orleans. Six Flags is a really large amusement park, and amusement parks are big property. And Six Flags New Orleans was a big amusement park, and they were going to add a water park to it to make it even bigger. Well, Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans and completely devastated Six Flags New Orleans. And it ruined all the rides, it ruined all the buildings. So, unfortunately, amusement park Owners decided that it was too risky to reopen Six Flags New Orleans. Everything was destroyed. So Six Flags New Orleans has been deserted and it's empty for so many years. I don't know what's in the spot now, but Hurricane Katrina ruined a huge amusement park like Six Flags New Orleans, and it also cost 1,800 people their lives and a lot of money in damage. So today we're going to learn about the impact and how Hurricane Katrina hit. So, as always, you're welcome to share your thoughts on Hurricane Katrina in the comments, and you can also ask any questions on Hurricane Katrina in the comments should you have any questions. So, we have a live comment. Shout out to a YouTuber, Monstar Sports and Entertainment, for tuning in. Hey, sir, how are you? Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy our video today. All right, so let's get started. We're going to learn about Hurricane Katrina right now. So let's learn about Hurricane Katrina. So, Hurricane Katrina was a destructive Category 5 Atlantic hurricane that caused over 1,800 deaths and $1.25 billion in damage in late August of 2005, especially in the city of New Orleans and the surrounding areas. It was at the time the costliest tropical cyclone on record and is now tied with 2017's Hurricane Harvey. The storm was the 12th tropical cyclone, the 5th hurricane, and the 3rd major hurricane of the 2005 Atlantic hurricane season, as well as the 4th most intense Atlantic hurricane on record to make landfall in the contiguous United States. Hurricane Katrina originated on August 23rd, 2005, as a tropical depression from the merger of a tropical wave and the remnants of Tropical Depression 10. Earlier the following day, the depression intensified into a tropical storm as it headed generally westward towards Florida, strengthening into a hurricane 2 hours before making landfall at Hollandale Beach on August 25th. After briefly weakening to tropical storm strength over southern Florida, Katrina emerged in the Gulf of Mexico on August 26 and began to rapidly intensify. The storm strengthened into a Category 5 hurricane over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico before weakening to Category 3 strength at its second landfall on August 29th over southeast Louisiana and Mississippi. Hurricane Katrina first made landfall between Hollandale Beach and Aventura, Florida on August 25th. The storm dropped heavy rainfall in portions of the Miami metropolitan area with a peak total of 16.43 inches in per rain. As a result, local flooding occurred in Miami-Dade County, damaging approximately 100 south in the Florida Keys. A tornado was spawned in Marathon on August 26th. The tornado damaged a hangar at the airport there and caused an estimated $5 million in damage. The rains caused flooding, and the combination of rains and winds downed trees and power lines, leaving 1.45 million people without power. Damage in South Florida was estimated at $523 million, mostly as a result of crop damage. 12 people died in South Florida, of which 3 were caused by downed trees in Broward County. 3 from drowning in Miami-Dade County, and 3 were from carbon monoxide poisoning caused by generators. 1 was due to a vehicle accident, 1 occurred during debris cleanup, and 1 was associated with a lack of electricity. Significant impacts were also reported in the Florida Panhandle. Although Katrina moved ashore in Louisiana and Mississippi, its outer periphery produced a 5.37-foot storm surge in Pensacola, Florida. High waves caused beach erosion and closed nearby roadways. There were 5 tornadoes in the northwestern portion of the state, though none of them caused significant damage. Throughout the Florida Panhandle, the storm resulted in an estimate $100 million in damage. There were 2 indirect fatalities from Katrina in Walton County as a result of a traffic accident. In the Florida Panhandle, 77,000 customers lost power. Overall, the hurricane killed 14 people in Florida and caused at least $623 million in damage. $623 million. That's a lot of money. So before striking South Florida, Katrina traversed the Bahamas as a tropical storm. However, minimum impact was reported with only fresh breezes on various islands. Although Hurricane Katrina stayed well to the north of Cuba, on August 28th, it brought tropical storm-force winds and rainfall of over 8 inches to western regions of the island. Telephone and power lines were damaged, and around 8,000 people were evacuated in the Pinar del Rio province in Cuba. On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall near Boris Triumph, Louisiana, with 125 mile per hour winds as a strong Category 3 hurricane. Although the storm surge to the east of the path of the eye in Mississippi was higher, a significant surge affected the Louisiana coast. The height of the surge is uncertain because of a lack of data, although a tide gauge in Plaquemines Parish indicated a storm tide in excess of 14 feet and 12 feet. Storm surge was recorded in Grand Isle. The hurricane made its final landfall near the mouth of the Pearl River, with the eye straddling St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana, and Hancock County, Mississippi, on the morning of August 29th at about 9:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. Hurricane Katrina also brought heavy rain to Louisiana, with 8 to 10 inches falling on a wide swath of the eastern part of the state. In the area around Slidell, the rainfall was even higher, and the highest rainfall recorded in the state was approximately 15 inches. As a result of the rainfall and storm surge, the level of Lake Pontchartrain rose and caused significant flooding along its northeastern shore, affecting communities from Slidell to Mandeville. Several bridges were destroyed, including the I-10 twin-span bridge connecting Slidell to New Orleans. Almost 900,000 people lost power in Louisiana as a result of Hurricane Katrina. Katrina's storm surge inundated all parishes surrounding Lake Pontchartrain, including St. Tammany, Tongafoa, St. John the Baptist, and St. Charles parishes. St. Tammany Parish received a 2-part storm surge. The first surge came as Lake Pontchartrain rose and the storm blew water from the Gulf of Mexico into the lake. The second came as the eye of Katrina passed. Westerly winds pushed water into a bottleneck at the Riglets Pass, forcing it further inland. The range of surge levels in eastern St. Tammany Parish is estimated at 13 to 16 feet, not including wave action. Hard-hit St. Bernard Parish was flooded because of breaching of the levees that contained a navigation channel called the Mississippi River Gulf Outlet and the breach of the 40 Arpent Canal levee that was designed and built by the Orleans Levee Board. The search for the missing was undertaken by the St. Bernard Fire Department because of the assets of the United States Coast Guard being diverted to New Orleans. In the months after the storm, many of the missing were tracked down by searching flooding homes, tracking credit card records, and visiting homes of family and relatives. According to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, in St. Bernard Parish, 81% of the housing units were damaged. In St. Tammany Parish, 70% were damaged, and in Plaquemines Parish, 80% were damaged. In addition, the combined effect of Hurricanes Katrina and Hurricane Rita was the destruction of an estimated 562 square kilometers of coastal wetlands in Louisiana. So that's some information about Hurricane Katrina. Now we're going to learn the effects and the impact it had on not only New Orleans, but the whole United States as a whole. So let's talk about landfall in New Orleans right now. As the eye of Hurricane Katrina swept to the northeast, it subjected the city of New Orleans to hurricane conditions for hours. Although power failures prevented accurate measure of wind speeds in New York, there were a few measurements of hurricane force winds. Based on this information, the NHC concluded that much of the city likely experienced sustained winds of Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane strength. Katrina's storm surge caused 53 levee breaches in the fragilely built levee system protecting Metro New Orleans and the failure of the 40 Arpent Canal levee. Failures occurred in New Orleans and surrounding communities, especially St. Bernard Parish. The Mississippi River Gulf Outlet breached its levees in approximately 20 places, flooding most of eastern New Orleans, most of St. Bernard Parish, and the east bank of Plaquemines Parish. The major levee breaches in the city included breaches at the 17th Street Canal levee, the London Avenue Canal, and the wide navigable Industrial Canal, which left approximately 80% of the city of New Orleans flooded. Most of the major roads traveling into and out of the city were damaged. The only major intact highway routes out of the city were the westbound Crescent City Connection and the Huey P. Long Bridge, as large portions of the I-10 twin span bridge traveling eastbound towards Slidell, Louisiana, had collapsed. Both the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway and the Crescent City Connection only carried emergency traffic. However, access to downtown New Orleans and the shelter of last resort at the convention center was never closed because River Road in Jefferson Parish and Lake Avenue in New Orleans were not flooded and would have allowed access throughout the immediate post-storm emergency period. On August 29th at 7:40 a.m. Central Time, it was reported that most of the windows on the north side of the Hyatt Regency New Orleans had been blown out, and many other high-rise buildings had extensive window damage. The Hyatt was the most severely damaged hotel in the city, with beds reported to be flying out of the windows. Insulation tubes were exposed as the hotel's glass exterior was completely sheared off. The Superdome, which was sheltering many people who had not evacuated, sustained significant damage. Now, for those of you who are into NFL like I am, proud Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, the Superdome is home to the New Orleans Saints. That's where the New Orleans Saints play. But in Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the Superdome took some significant damage. Two sections of the Superdome's roof were compromised, and the dome's waterproof membrane was essentially peeled off. Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport was closed before the storm, but did not flood. On August 30th, it was reopened to humanitarian and rescue operations. Limited commercial passenger service resumed at the airport on September 13th, and regular carrier operations resumed in early October. Levee breaches in New Orleans also caused a significant number of deaths, with over 700 bodies recovered. With over 700 bodies recovered in New Orleans by October 23rd, 2005. So the levee breaches in New Orleans played a big role in the number of deaths for hurricane deaths. Some survivors and evacuees reported seeing dead bodies lying in city streets and floating in still flooded sections, especially in the east of the city. The advanced state of decomposition of many corpses, some of which were left in the water or sun for days before being collected, hindered efforts by coroners to identify many of the dead. So that is the landfall of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. New Orleans was the hardest hit area from Hurricane Katrina. So let's learn of the impact of Hurricane Katrina, shall we? On August 29th, 2005, Katrina's storm surge caused 53 breaches to various flood protection structures in and around the greater New Orleans area, submerging 80% of the city. A June 2007 report by the American Society of Civil Engineers indicated that 2/3 of the flooding was caused by the multiple failures of the city's flood walls. The storm surge also devastated the coast of Mississippi and Alabama, making Katrina one of the most destructive hurricanes, the costliest natural disaster in the history of the United States, which is tied with Hurricane Harvey in 2017, and the deadliest hurricane since the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane. The total damage from Katrina is estimated at $1.25 billion, 2005 US dollars. However, in February 2021, a severe winter storm struck the United States, causing at least $1.95 billion in US dollars in damage in Texas. It surpassed both Katrina and Harvey to become the single costliest natural disaster recorded in the United States. The death toll from Hurricane Katrina is uncertain, with reports differing by hundreds. According to the National Hurricane Center, 1,836 deaths can be attributed to the storm. One in Kentucky, two each in Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio, 14 in Florida, 238 in Mississippi, and 1,577 in Louisiana. However, 135 people remain categorized as missing in Louisiana, and many of the deaths are indirect, but it's also almost impossible to determine the exact cause of some of the fatalities. A 2008 report by the Disaster Medicine and Public Health Preparedness Journal indicates that 966 deaths can be directly attributed to the storm in Louisiana, including out of state evacuees, and another 20 indirectly, such as firearm related deaths and gas poisoning. Due to uncertain causes of death, with 454 evacuees, an upper bound of 1,440 is noted in paper. A follow-up study by the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals determined that the storm was directly responsible for 1,170 fatalities in Louisiana. Federal disaster declarations covered 90,000 square miles of the United States, an area almost as large as the United Kingdom. The hurricane left an estimated 3 million people without electricity. On September 3rd, 2005, Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chartiff described the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina as probably the worst catastrophe or set of catastrophe in the country's history, referring to the hurricane itself plus the flooding of New Orleans and all the victims that died in Hurricane Katrina. Even in 2010, debris remained in some coastal communities. So that is Hurricane Katrina, a very sad natural disaster and one of the worst hurricanes to ever strike the United States of America. So right now, I'd like to take a moment of silence for all the victims that died in Hurricane Katrina. All right, I want to thank you for participating in a moment of silence for all the Hurricane Katrina victims. I also want to thank you for tuning into this episode of Keeping It Real with Alex Cardinale. I hope you learned a lot about Hurricane Katrina, and I hope you'll be safe during Hurricane Ian. So the next tragedy I'm going to break down here on Keeping It Real with Alex Cardinale next Thursday, I'm going to talk about the FedEx airplane Flight 705 hijacking. A disgruntled employee tried to hijack a FedEx airplane, and he severely stabbed and wounded three of the pilots in the cockpit. But miraculously and historically and heroically, the pilots were able to combat the hijack and subdue him, and it was a successful landing. They landed successfully, and the perpetrator was arrested. So we're going to talk about that tragedy, the FedEx Flight 705 hijacking, next Thursday right here on Keeping It Real with Alex Cardinale, legendary Alex Cardinale. So be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, the legendary Alex Cardinale, if you have not already. Thank you for watching, and stay safe in Hurricane Ian. Have a great night, everybody. It's Crazy Tiger Alex Cardinale, and I am hosting the Halloween 2022 Bash. I'm inviting all you scary ghosts, goblins, and monsters, to be a part of the Halloween 2022 Bash hosted by me, Crazy Tiger Alex Cardinale. On the Halloween Bash this year, there will be appearances from Chef Alex and Aqua Alex Cardinale. What cooking recipes will Chef Alex give out? What monster fish will Aqua Alex talk about on the Halloween bash? There will also be Halloween discussion and scary stories with crazy Tiger Alex Cardinale. Crazy Tiger Alex Cardinale will also discuss his favorite cat, tigers, and tiger attacks on humans. So it's going to be a fun Halloween bash this year, filled with Halloween stories and a lot of Halloween fun. The Halloween 2022 bash airs live Halloween night, Monday, October 31st, 2022, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, only on my YouTube channel, the legendary Alex Cardinale. Happy Halloween, everybody, and I will see you Halloween night, Crazy Tiger Alex Cardinale. It's going to be great.